Hello, everybody. This will be my intro video for Up and Adam Comics, and my name, of course, is Adam. Not using a misnomer at all for that. Wanted to thought a good idea for an intro video is to kind of talk about the who I am as a person, and the types of shows and different things that I may be covering. I want to thank anybody that's watching this for the first time, for tuning in a little bit. And if you're so inclined, feel free to like and subscribe, comment. I'll try to get back to everybody that tends to watch these comments as much as possible. Um, I thought what may be a little interesting is to kind of talk about the um, my origin story and kind of with every superhero you got to have a good origin, right? So for me, I'm a little bit older, as you can guess from my graying hair, and I'm in my early 50s, and basically, um, superheroes and comics and things like that have been kind of a little bit ingrained in my history. When I was first born, so I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, a sister that's 6 years older than me. My brother was a huge Batman, Adam West fan, and was uh, running around the house a lot. I think my sister's first words were Mama, Daddy, and then Batman because my brother was going around singing the Batman theme song all the time. Of course, when I was born, a lot of that stuff was in syndication. So, of course, my brother wanted to introduce that to me in an early age. But probably some of the earliest connections with this genre is actually Electric Company and seeing Spider-Man on the Electric Company and the word balloons that would pop up and say things. And I thought that was kind of fascinating as a kid. And then I really enjoyed, there were a few cartoons that were out. I really enjoyed the Hulk TV show with Lou Ferrigno, and also the Super Friends cartoon, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like those are what probably propelled me a little bit. But I remember I had a Hulk Stretch Armstrong, and I got it caught in my family's recliner, and and the arms got caught up, and then all the goo got all over the place. So that was fun. And, it probably got a spanking for that, but I remember doing like some puzzles and different things like that. I remember drawing as a kid, like drawing a Spider-Man pretty early on. But it wasn't until I actually remember the first. I don't remember the specific, but the first comic book that I actually ever received. To tell you a little funny aside story, I um, I had an allowance when I was a kid, very small allowance. But I remember, I think I got about $1 a month, if I remember right. And it wasn't consistent. It was like, okay, occasionally I would get that dollar. But I remember saving up for a long time. And I had a friend of mine who had a birthday, and I was saving up, and I bought him a Muppets because Muppets was big in the late 70s, and I bought a Muppets board game for him. And I saved up all my money, spent it myself to get him the board game for his birthday. Um, a few months had passed after that, and then my birthday came up. So he was dropped off by his dad to come to my house to give me a birthday gift. So I was all excited. He comes over, and what does he give me is a Flash comic. And I, I don't know, stupid early me judging me. I was like, man, he spent like 50 cents on this comic, and I spent like $8 on this board game, which was a lot of money to me at the time. And I remember kind of getting mad and reading the comic, and I was like, oh, this is stupid, kind of at that time. And I think my emotions tagged into me, or maybe I just wasn't destined to be a Flash fan or a DC fan. I don't really remember the comic because I didn't keep it. But it had something to do with Flash fighting someone on a roller coaster. I tend to remember. I'd love to find out what that issue is and try to get it back at some point. But anyway, um, so that was a story like the first one that I received. And my brother had a few comics. He collected, he got some classics illustrated so he wouldn't have to read the actual books. It helped him cheat, a little bit in school. He got some Sad Sack and the Sarge. I remember he got some Western comics and things like that. Um, but the first time I remember now, so think about Spider-Man Amazing Friends is on TV, cartoons. I'm really enjoying that and Super Friends. Um, so I used to spend most of my weekends at my grandmother's house growing up, and we would go to various places, and we went down to a 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee when I was a kid and get some candy. And so we went down there, and then she was like, I was looking at some of the comics that were on the rack, and she was like, "Hey, if you want to get one, go ahead and get one." And so I actually picked up this actual issue. So I got it from the newsstand. And if you see here, I've gotten it signed by Brett Breeding, who provided the inks, and David Michelini, who was the writer of that book. My plan is to try to get everybody involved in the book if I can, get them to sign this copy because this started um, the illness, I guess you would say. Through that process going home, and the reason that I kind of picked this one was it had a lot of characters on there. And I was, it's like, oh, there's Spider-Man. There's, a couple people I recognize from the show. There's Hulk. And I was like, oh man, I gotta have to, get this. So I went and I got back to my grandmother's house, read it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I need more. So I talked to her and I was like, is there any way I can get some more comics? And she was like, hey, why don't you do, I remember she had a hedge outside her house and I had to go, if I trimmed the hedge and did all that stuff, she was going to give me a few dollars to go back to 7-Eleven and get some more stuff. So I immediately cut the hedge and went back. And I remember the other books that I picked up. And I think she gave me like $3 and she was like, get some more comics, get some candy, do whatever. So I got, and my goal was like with this one issue, and this is like May of 82 or something around that time frame. Um, uh, it was to try to absorb and get as many characters as I could. So I got an issue of What If that came out that was number 34. It was the humor issue, but it had like every panel, every page, and some pages had multiple panels that were separate, but every like little story in there was a different character and talking about it. So I was like trying to absorb it. I didn't get all the jokes. I remember it was like, what if Black Bolt had hiccups? And I was like, I don't know what that means, but it was still like try to absorb it all. I also picked up Hulk 272, which is actually second Rocket Raccoon, but it had Hulk with Sasquatch and Wendigo on it, big fight. And like I said, growing up watching the Hulk show, I was like, oh, I gotta get the Hulk book. And then Contest of Champions number 3. It's actually the first limited series I think that was ever made. But in that, it was basically heroes fighting heroes and had a whole bunch of stuff, had a great skull cover on it. And I was like, oh, yes, I want to get this. So that was kind of the origin of what got me into it. And I remember um, I was starting to, get some or taking allowance money or working on some extra things, or my grandmother might give me something, and I'd pick up some other comics on the shelf that came out there. And then, over a little bit of time, I had probably about 100 comics or so. And then we were moving as a family to another house, and I wanted some money for some things, and we had a big yard sale. So I was like, let me just sell most of my comics. So I sold a whole bunch of them. I kept a few, like this Avengers, and I kept, uh, I remember Alpha Flight. I really liked Alpha Flight, and I picked that up, kept it. But a lot of the stuff I sold, I was trying to sell. Nobody was buying it. And then my cousin came over and bought my comics back from me. But it was a few years later that I started getting back into it. And after we moved, and I would bike and go to drugstores, 7-Elevens, things like that, to actually be able to purchase some things. And then we had a newsstand that opened up not far from where I lived. And they basically got in the traditional books that were just normally distributed through a magazine service. But me and a friend of mine who we kind of discovered that we both liked comics, we kind of coaxed this newsstand guy to get into buying direct comics because this is in the mid to late 80s, and we had heard there were certain books from like Marvel and DC that we could not get. And then we kept hearing things about like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and some other things that were starting to pop up on that indie circuit, like First Comics and things like that. We're like, oh yeah, we want to read this stuff too. So he started dabbling into that under our encouragement. And then and so we started, collecting a little bit from there. Fast forward a few years later, I'm going through high school and started in college, and then I was like, I don't need to keep getting comics. So, and I needed more money for books. We kind of not, we were a pretty poor family. So I ended up selling all my comics to my newsstand guy there so he could start getting into back issues. And then, and kind of all that I really kept was my Fantastic Four books. Fantastic Four is my favorite comic, uh, but that was what I kept, and everything else went away. So, and then being a poor college student, I didn't have really excess money to spend on anything like comics. So it was a little bit after college that I started getting back into the hobby, around when that Ultimate Spider-Man, the first series started coming out, and I started picking up some more things. I always got Fantastic Four, but everything else just didn't really pick up. So, but I've been collecting for a long time. And that's kind of a little bit of my origin story. Like I said, I've been collecting a while. I have close to about 17,000 comics, which is a whole lot. But I am a Wednesday warrior. I get new books every week. Um, and I also, get a lot of comics from back issues. I'm a big run person, so I like collecting, full runs of comics. And what I usually do is collect a run, work through a certain process, and then once I collect all those, then I go through and read them. So I'm working on catching up with reading with some of the different runs and stuff that I've worked on and accumulated over the years. Um, the stuff. So talk a little bit about my collection and what I have. I'm a big Marvel person. Definitely most of my collection is going to be Marvel. I have, like I said, Fantastic Four has been my biggest issue collection that I've done. I have all but four of the Fantastic Four. So I'm missing four of the first five, or first, yeah, four of the first five issues. Also have a big Avengers collection. I think I'm only missing like eight of those from when it started to current. So, and Captain America, I have a full run of Captain America. And so there's different things like that that I've, collected over the years. Things that I'm currently working on. Trying to complete a Marvel team up run, kind of random, but about two-thirds of the way through that. I have also working on maybe Tales of Suspense, going back and getting the Captain America issues from that. I probably have a little over half of those, but still need a few of those. And then I've been thinking about getting into some more. Bronze Age Marvel horror and starting to collect that. I also would love to have some Golden Age horror, but that's a little bit out of my price range. I try to keep. I don't spend a ton of money if I can help it. So that's a little bit about me. Thought I would talk a little bit about the types of shows that you might see. So this is being recorded in my office, my work office during lunch break. But at my house is probably where I'll do most of my filming. I don't have an elaborate setup at my house. My wife is kind of in control of all of our decorations, which I let her. She has much better taste than I would. So I let her have that control. So you won't see a lot of like a fancy wall with a bunch of key issues and slabs and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so in my office, I kind of have a few more fun things. So you can see behind me, I have a bunch of these are prints that I've all gotten signed by the artists that have done things over the years. Um, but the types of shows that I'll probably be covering is, of course, showcasing some books and things that I'm really into and why I got into those things. I'm also a big fan, and probably more of my collection since I have so many comics. And have a very short want list. I am really, get a little bit more into comic art. And so I've been collecting sketches, some original pages, things like that. And I also love to draw as well. And so I might showcase some of those different things. My favorite character that you can see right there is Doctor Doom. A friend of mine got me into Doctor Doom, so I've been drawing a lot of Doctor Doom stuff, just like homage covers. I love drawing homage covers. I know some people think that it's not quite as creative, but it's something that I enjoy doing and thinking of characters in in a different setting and based on covers I love or something like that. So I enjoy doing that. Um, the and also go to some Comic Cons. I try to meet some artists, get some sketches. I have a ton of Doctor Doom sketches, which I'll probably do a show on that. I think I'm getting close to about 50 different artists that have done Doctor Doom sketches for me, so that's kind of fun. I'll also, of course, be doing some, the typical shows that you see there, unboxings or what I picked up at different things. I'm planning on doing some comic book shop reviews. I'm not going to try to be a sticky goose with a strap-on camera or anything like that, but I'll probably be putting out some reviews. Some of my within my position, my job, I work for higher ed at a college, and so I do some recruiting. So that does allow me to go to some different places. So when I have some free time, I'll be, stopping in a few comic shops that I always find along the way. Next week, I'm heading to Pittsburgh, so hope to hit a couple shops while I'm there. And then also, I'll probably do some reviews of comics, like new stuff that I'm getting, or maybe classic stories. So uh, please, feel free to provide me any feedback that you would like, anything you'd like me to see me cover that I've talked about a little bit there. Remember to like and subscribe. And man, I don't have a fancy logo right now. I'm working on that. I don't have a fancy catchphrase like, flip through a floppy or whatever those things are. So maybe I'll develop that in the future. But thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you online. Hope to make some connections and with other people in the community. So I'm very excited about that possibility. I want to give a couple of thanks to a few channels that I do watch, and definitely encourage you, if you're stumbling upon me before you see them, which I find would probably be unlikely, but if you happen to, some of the videos, channels that I've really enjoyed watching, Halia Comics, Lettuce Comics, Lunch Money Comics, Mon Comics, The Colossus Collector, just to name a few, there have been some of the favorite ones that I've watched, and it's kind of encouraged me to talk a little bit about what I am into. So, and then also my LCS is Secret Lair Comics, and I help out a lot with pricing books, helping the owner with some different things like that. And we have a YouTube channel, so look for Secret Lair Comics, and we did like a 2024 year in review with me and a few of my friends there, and we also did one prepping for a con. So if it's the first time, feel free to check that out. So anyway, I will hope to see you all virtually or talk to you through the interwebs, and have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye bye.